That's not intimidating, is it? Well, good afternoon, everyone. And thank you all for joining our program today. My name is Stan Myers. I'm the president of the KC Downtowners. In my other day job, I serve as client development manager for Terracon. We're an engineering firm headquartered here in Kansas City. If you're joining us for the first time, we welcome you. And only just recently heard about the KC Downtowners and are curious to learn more. Well, we are simply an informal organization of Kansas Cityans. We've been around for about 20 years, and we just all share a passion for downtown development and promoting a positive community spirit here in Kansas City. So again, thank you all for joining us. We cannot do what we do without our generous sponsors and Kansas City-based companies here who share our passion for the downtown community. Typically, we would welcome a monthly sponsor, but in this case, for the summer of 2021, I want to extend a special thanks to JE Dunn Construction, who has graciously sponsored both our June and July events. We are so fortunate to have Miss Gigi Owens of JE Dunn. She serves on our board of directors, and for her role in fostering that partnership, as well as bringing our attention to a very important nonprofit, Restart. They're doing great work. Excuse me. And you're going to hear about them shortly. First, let me introduce Jeff Blasey. Jeff is Vice President for JE Dunn, and he serves as Director of the Kansas City office. Jeff's going to tell us a little bit about JE Dunn and how they've weathered this past year and what he sees for their future. Jeff, thank you so much, and take it away.
Thank you very much, Stan. We're always continue to be here and support KC Downtowners for all that you continue to do to make downtown a better place to live, work, and play. Really more excited to hear what Justin has to say about the airport and maybe more specifically about how he thinks the garage is going. Jay Dunn's been out at KCI since almost the beginning of the project. Once the site was pad ready, we did pour all the concrete for the terminal, and we're about halfway done with the garage. So it's off to a really good start, and we're excited. We really hope it goes a strong finish. I really don't want to talk much more about construction. I think most of the people on the line know who we are. I did want to spend a little bit of time talking about one of our key strategic initiatives, and that's we really promote having the best people and the right culture. I think everybody has a little different story about return to work. Around middle March in 2020, we shut down our offices. A week later, construction was deemed essential, so we had to figure out how to get back to work. And from the leadership of our regional and executive leadership teams, through constant communication every single day, staying up with CDC guidelines, we kept our job sites open for the entire pandemic. And with a very, very few instances, we kept all of our people safe, and we were able to do what we do on an every single day. Then around June of about 3 months later, we opened up our offices for those who were able and comfortable going back to work. All our offices had unique protocols in place to make sure that our construction professionals and support staff felt safe and were able to do their job. And we got through it, and we performed at a high level, and we really worked hard to keep our clients happy. About April 1st of 21, Gordon Lansford stated that our employees are coming back to work. So get your affairs in order. The vaccine's available, so be safe. And 6/1, we came back to work. So it was really awesome to see the best people in our industry back in our buildings, but we had a lot of things that we really had to work on. We had to clean some stuff up, and one of those things is making JE Dunn a fun place to work. In Kansas City, throughout the summer, fall, and winter, we have consistent events where we get outside of our four walls and get to spend time with our friends and not talk about work. Work may slip in there every once in a while, but some of the things we've done this year to date, we've had a volleyball, trap shooting event, constantly have food trucks and coffee carts in our lobby. But our big events are coming back later this summer. We're excited to have our J Dunn Team Day at the K, American Royal employee event, as well as our J Dunn employee golf tournament. So culture is a really big part of what differentiates us as a place to work, and we're going to continue to make sure we bring that culture back. The next thing we want to talk about is J Dunn and our focus on community impact. J Dunn's also has always been a huge supporter of the communities that we live and work and play in. You can see some of the numbers on the bottom of the screen. We support over 400 charities. We consistently have board members on our not-for-profit partners, as well as our community and municipal boards, to make sure that we're giving them the support they need. The one thing that was not well received in this office is during COVID, we didn't have the volunteer opportunities that we normally had. Thankfully, those are coming back, and every single week we have our field employees, our support staff, our construction professionals out, whether it be pouring a sidewalk, whether it be working at harvesters, whether it be building a pergola for veterans community builders, or cleaning up an outdoor play field for Jackson County juvenile courts. Those things are happening every single day. Our project teams are taking ownership of it. So we're really proud of what they're doing, and we're just getting back to start doing that again. The last thing I wanted to talk about is some of the efforts that we're making on the DE&I front. Our MCD program has been around for 20 years. What it is it's a crash course in contracting for minority and women-owned trade partners. And it's really starting, and it's led by our J Dunn employees, and it goes through the whole cycle of a project. And the thing that differentiates our MCD program for others is the very strategic goal to make sure that 75% of our graduates are working on a J job within the following year or two. We're almost there. The numbers continues to creep up, but we have a commitment from our executive leadership team down to our project managers and superintendents to make that happen. At KCI, we went a step above that. We established a mentor protege relationship with a minority contractor in Kansas City, Axiom. And what was really cool about that is we did not spend as much time talking about the construction, but it was more on the business side of what they were doing, whether it be insurance, whether it be bonding, whether it be the estimating, and helping them make decisions to position their company to be more successful. So that worked so well that we've since rolled that out to a full blown, we call it our MCD Plus program, where an owner of an MRW company in Kansas City is partnered with a J Dunn executive, and they continue to have those conversations. They meet once a month, and we're really hoping that mentor protege relationship really helps those companies grow to do more work. So that's what we're doing outward facing. Inward facing is we've started to establish employee resource groups. You can see the two on the screen there: Blacks United in Learning and Development and our Women's Networking Group. We're trying to create a medium through which our employees can reconnect with each other around shared experiences, interests, and identities, and we can increase opportunities for our employees to promote their leadership and professional development. So these programs have been around for a little bit, but we're really invested in making these continue to grow J Dunn as a diverse and inclusive contractor. So that's all I got. We'll quit talking about us, and I want to kick it over to Miss Gigi Owens to talk about Restart. Thank you all for the time.
Good afternoon, everybody. Our nonprofit highlight for today is Restart. They have been for years doing phenomenal things in this community and across the metro. So with that, I would like to pass the baton over to Ms. Daisha Kimbrough, who's going to share some information with you today. Go on, Daisha.
Hi, thank you so much, Ms. Gigi, for having us here today and for the invite and your time. My name is Daisha Kimbrough. I'm the Volunteer Engagement Specialist with Restart. And I just want to share a little bit about what we do. And should you guys have any questions or anything like that, definitely feel free to ask away. And we can kind of go from there. So if you're not aware, Restart is a nonprofit organization based in downtown Kansas City with a focus on empowering people to end homelessness. So our goals are not just to shelter people as they're experiencing these traumatic events. Although we do shelter people, our goal is to really engage them in programming to not just get them into permanent housing, but to keep them there. So we have over 17 different programs that are involved with our wraparound services. So things like individual counseling, group therapy, financial literacy skills, health and wellness, employment services, and so forth, to really help our clients, as I mentioned, not just get housed, but to stay there. We operate out of 11 different locations throughout Kansas City, Kansas, and Kansas City, Missouri. We are able to help about 400 people on any given day. And something that's really awesome about our program is that we are very low barrier. So that means we do not discriminate against age, race, sex, gender, orientation, religion, anything like that. We believe in the housing first model, which basically means, do you need help? Okay, let's get you in a house and let's get you housed, and then we'll kind of follow you throughout your programming from there. To help really address whatever issues kind of got you into the situation, and how we can keep you from being recurring chronically homeless is what that's called. So we're completely inclusive, and we've been grateful to be operating in this capacity for over 40 years. So we are celebrating our 40th year anniversary this year. We are actually having a party in the park to celebrate this great work, September 16th from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. If anyone's interested, tickets can be purchased online at restartinc.org. And again, as a nonprofit, all proceeds go into the work that we do. So that's a little bit about us. I know that was kind of a mouthful, but should you guys have any questions about what we do, definitely feel free to reach out. You can always, again, restartinc.org. Thank you, Kim, for sharing that. Yes, restartinc.org. You can find out about that party in the park. It will be an inaugural event, so we'll have something like that each year. And then you can also find out about some volunteer opportunities. I know we kind of touched on that. You guys touched on that a little bit earlier. We have things from or helping to organize donation rooms to helping to get client rooms ready and prepared and more welcomed, and inviting for new clients to come in, helping out in the kitchen. I mean, you name it. And other ways to engage. So definitely check out our website. Great contact information is on there as well in case anyone has any questions. And yeah, that's a little bit about us. So thank you again for having us, and let me know what questions might come up. You can always type it into the chat, and then I can respond to you that way as well.
Daisha, could you just repeat the number of years that you're celebrating?
Okay, there's a little thing there. So we've been operating for about 40 years now. We started in 1981 as a single male shelter. Unfortunately, as the needs of the community increased, we've been able to accommodate from there. So it's unfortunate that the needs increased, but now, but we are fortunate enough to be able to have the resources to really support the audiences that we do. So we support single adults, families, youth, veterans and their families, those with special populations, special needs, and the such. So we have a very wide range of programs to really support what the community needs at the moment. So over 40 years now.
Great.
Happy to say.
Thanks,
Yes,
Daisha. We're going to pass. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat.
absolutely.
And I'm going to pass back to the man in charge, Stan Myers.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
Thank you, Ms. Gigi. Thank you, Daisha. That's such an amazing story. 40 years, that's incredible. Everyone, please visit the website. It's a cool website to check out anyway. There's information on how you can donate. And now we also know that we can find out details on a wonderful celebration to be held in September. So that's a wonderful story. Also, thank you so much to Jay Dunn, Ms. Gigi, Jeff, for bringing them to our attention, for bringing them here today, and also for all the work that you're doing for the community. Love hearing the stories about your focus on equity, diversity, inclusion in the workplace, both with, internally as well as with contractors and subcontractors that you're working with. Seems like a beautiful segue here to our featured speaker today, Justin Meyer, who's going to talk to us about the KCI terminal project, which J.E. Dunn, of course, has been working on. If you follow that story for these past several years, you know that it's not just about a physical terminal, it's about building a community and how the team out there is really focused on bringing opportunities for the entire Kansas City workforce. So that it's all just a really great story. But let me just now introduce Justin Meyer, our speaker for today. Justin is a 24-year veteran of the U.S. aviation industry. He rejoined the Kansas City Aviation Department in April of 2014 as the Deputy Director of Aviation, Marketing, and Air Service Development. He leads the marketing, communications, and customer service efforts for the Kansas City Aviation Department's 2 airports. So we kind of forget about the downtown one, don't we? In addition, Justin works with airline planners to increase flights and add new routes from Kansas City International Airport. If you follow Justin on social media, and you should, you'll see a lot of those announcements come that way early and get the scoop on it. Justin has been actively involved in the planning for Build KCI, Build KCI, which website www.buildkci.com. The 1.5 billion new single terminal at Kansas City International Airport, where Justin advocates for the customer experience to be one of high accessibility and inclusiveness. So with that, Justin, you are clear for takeoff.
Thanks, Stan, and thanks for the shout out for the downtown airport as well. As the KC Downtowners, I feel like we've got to make sure we recognize the Charles B. Wheeler Downtown Airport, MKC, which is a real asset to the community. It's one of the closest to city center airports in the country, and we bring in Big 12 teams for basketball. In March, we bring in all the Royals charters, and their opponents are using that facility. And in the COVID pandemic era, the downtown airport is also where Sporting Kansas City and MLS soccer opponents are coming in too. So that airfield gets quite a bit of use, and we're glad to have it. That said, you signed up today not to talk about the downtown airport, but we'll talk a little bit about what's going on in Kansas City International Airport, as well as the Build KCI project, the new single terminal that we're constructing. So I'm trying to share a screen. Give me a thumbs up if you can see it. Hopefully you're seeing, yes, I think you're seeing the full screen. Great. The real quick summary here for you is that we're building a new terminal at Kansas City International Airport, if you're not aware. It's a new 39-gate facility. It will entirely replace the existing terminals B and C. The big takeaway is that the project is on time and the project is on budget. On time is a March of 2023 opening. On budget is, as Stan mentioned, $1.5 billion project. We're making really good progress, and I'm excited to give you an update on where some of the things are today. To zoom up and take a little bit of a view from above, this is a visual of kind of the project layout site. You can see to the left side of the screen the horseshoe shape of Terminal C, the horseshoe shape of Terminal B. Of course, there used to be a Terminal A, which was vacant and was eventually demolished to make room for the new single terminal project. You can see the air traffic control tower in the middle of the screen, the parking garage, and that's due west of the air traffic control tower, 6,000 space parking garage that Jeff and the J.E. Dunn team are doing a really great job delivering. I just made a note to myself when Jeff said he wanted an update on his garage. that J Dunn just completed the 2600th piece of precast. It has been installed on that garage. It is 60% done, 60% done. I'll have some visuals here. You can see how that's coming along. But back to this visual, the garage, you can see the roadway, and I'll spend a little bit of time talking about the roadway on the next slide, but that's definitely an enhancement of what we have today, from what we have today. And then in blue is the terminal. So the large rectangle closest to the garage is what we call the head house, or the check-in lobby on the top floor, and on the lower level, baggage claim, airline baggage offices, a USO facility, international arrivals, CBP facility, that kind of thing. But the two long north-south concourses that you can see with aircraft parked around them will be where the gates are located. And there is an above-ground concourse connector, which does have moving walkways. I'll show you a picture of that today as well. So if walking is an issue, it'll be easy to access the B concourse, which is the farther out concourse. But that's the layout. It's kind of an H or a sideways H or an I-beam, depending on how your perspective. And this layout is actually quite normal, common in airports as they're constructing going forward. In fact, Austin, Texas just announced a major improvement program where they're going to expand their facility. Rather than above ground, their concourse connector will be underground. But there is a new concourse that they'll be constructing that actually looks like kind of what we're doing with Concourse B. The next slide gives you a rendering of what the new terminal facility will look like. You can see that amazing J.E. Dunn parking garage on the left-hand side there, 6,000 spaces, which absolutely replicates and adds to the parking capacity the existing facilities had in B garage, A garage, and C garage. And if you're a frequent flyer at Kansas City, prior to the pandemic, you were probably well experienced that B garage had a lot of issues, especially regarding capacity, where that garage would be full on a Sunday mid-afternoon and not open again for new parking until Wednesday, sometimes even Thursday, as travelers would be coming back home. And that was certainly a customer service failure for us, because not only is it inconvenient for people waiting to park, but for passengers that may be meeting or for a resident that may be driving up to meet a arriving passenger, especially if it's a passenger that has some mobility problems. That was a huge fail for us. And so this new parking garage, of course, will be an asset to enhancing customer service. Between the parking garage and that two-level terminal head house, you can see the top part of what is an elevated roadway, and that is the departures lanes. So if you are dropping someone off, this would be your access point to the terminal. Below this is a lower level roadway to pick up arriving passengers. There's also a commercial curb underneath the first part of the garage where our hotel buses, rental car buses, taxis, limousines, charter shuttles, those kind of things will be operating. So we'll really clean up the roadway, whereas today in the existing facility, we have 6 lanes of traffic with islands in the middle and hotel buses and Ubers and Lyfts and everybody kind of driving around each other and passing each other. The new roadway system will be improved in that everyone around you, when you're a driver, will be doing the same kind of thing you are, and that will be certainly an enhancement for the facility. You can see also the extended roof that hangs over the first 2 lanes of the departures level roadway. Is also a benefit to have passengers out of the weather, where if you're getting dropped off today at Kansas City International Airport's terminals B or C, you're frequently being dropped off in the rain if it's raining, or in the snow if it's snowing, and that's not ideal. So we'll improve that. One note is that we are currently the largest airport in the United States in terms of passenger volume that doesn't currently separate commercial traffic from departing traffic from arriving traffic. So it's about time for us to make that improvement. You can kind of see the Concourse A, the northern part of Concourse A coming out towards us. There's the Concourse connector and Concourse B out there where the sun is setting. One note I'll make here on this slide, and I'm very grateful for the leadership of the Director of Aviation, Pat Klein, who's kept on the wish list from day one glass boarding bridges for our facility. And these have been uncommon in the United States, common around the world. But some recent legislation change has allowed them to start becoming common in the United States. We actually went down to meet with Victor White at the Wichita Airport, the since retired director of the Wichita Airport, where they have, I think, 11 all glass passenger boarding bridges. Raves about the customer benefit, how people love the facility and those glass bridges, and how it really connects the traveler to the travel experience. Whereas today at Kansas City International Airport and most other airports, you go from being in queue to board, you scan your boarding pass, then you're in an enclosed steel tunnel until you're into an enclosed aluminum aircraft. And there's really no connection between the building and the aircraft from a visual perspective. And we're certainly confident that the glass boarding bridges will be something that our travelers rave about as it allows them to engage differently with the travel process. So really excited for that to be included. And those glass bridges have been procured, so that is locked and loaded. In terms of where we are with the project, the design is completely finished. And in terms of procurement, that's nearly completely finished as well. So we have very high confidence that we'll be on budget as the risk is really transferred from the aviation department to the contractors that have been selected to deliver their work on time and on budget. So high confidence in our ability to get this thing done. Here's a visual. We put a construction camera on the air traffic control tower. So this is from the air traffic control tower looking due west. You can see that parking garage under construction in the foreground. To the right side, I'm going to mouse over. If you can follow the mouse, there's the elevated roadway for departures. You can see that that's now been connected to ground and is drivable. There's a white vehicle on that facility now, so that's accessible. In fact, just earlier this week, I drove up this ramp as if I was a departing passenger for the first time, and that was really, really spectacular to see it all coming together. This is that area we call the head house, the
Justin,
upper level.
Your
Yes.
mouse is not visible.
Okay.
Maybe it's because you're not the one projecting. Are you the?
Yeah. Well,
the speaker?
then I will just kind of zoom through this.
Okay.
Then in
Just want to
the
let you know that we're not seeing your mousing. Sorry.
Thank you. I appreciate that. But the white roof line is that head house ticketing lobby where airline check-in, bag drop-off, as well as the security checkpoint will be. You can see the connector going out towards Concourse B. And really the takeaway here is that most of the glass is installed in the concourses. The precast panels have been installed in the concourses, and we're actually blowing air conditioning in the concourses right now. So that is really, really good progress there. And in terms of orientation, on the far left of the screen, you can see a tail of a Southwest aircraft and part of the bend of Terminal B. So that's how close the footprint of the new terminal is to the existing Terminal B. And if you're flying Southwest, you can get a really good visual of the project from some of their gate areas.
Can I ask real quick on the bottom then of that picture on the far right, the closer of the two approaches, is that the one for picking up arrivals? Because
that's correct. That's right. So the roadway will split off page. You'll stay to the right side for dropping off. You'll stay to the left side for picking up, and you'll go hard left will be the entrance to the parking garage. So all of that roadway pattern will be kind of happening as you're approaching the terminal. A few cool things that we'll just kind of look at some different areas around the project. The picture on the left is a visit that we did to a small town called Phoenix, Missouri, which is northwest of Springfield, where we visited the Phoenix Quarry, which is where the limestone that will be featured in the ticketing behind the ticket counters on that large wall will be installed. That was inspected and approved and purchased, and that limestone is actually now out of the quarry into the building. And you can see on the picture on the left-hand side, it's laid out there on the floor for kind of a last quality check before it's being installed on the back wall behind the ticket counters. So that progress has started. It was neat to see that, in fact, come out of the ground and being part of the project. This is a rendering of the B concourse with some of the fits and finishes that you'll see in the seating areas, carpet, in the connector, the hallway, terrazzo flooring. But note the wood ceiling, which will be a kind of a neat light, airy feature to the concourses and throughout the terminal. We've in fact mocked up part of that on the B concourse. This is not a rendering. This is real life, and this is just a visual of that mock-up of the southern part of the B concourse where the light fixtures and ceiling has been installed. So it's neat to see renderings becoming real life. This is another look from the departures levels curb at the parking garage. It's right across the street, accessible on 2 levels, the lower level baggage claim, upper level departures level. Behind the glass there is vertical circulation escalators and a stairwell, and that will be repeated. You can see where the pump out is to the left of the page behind that crane truck is the second piece of vertical circulation. I mentioned the moving walkways that will be in the concourse connector. This was maybe a week ago, before we glassed up the outside of this end of the B concourse, the middle of the B concourse. And this is the installation of bringing those large moving walkway pieces into the terminal via crane and dolly to put them into place. So if you were to walk down the concourse connector, you would see the grooves or the cores where they have the ground has been, or the floor has space for them. They're not yet installed, but they're there ready to be installed, as well as some other other pieces of vertical circulation that are really close to being installed. This is a visual of the concourse. This would be concourse B, I believe, where we're working to finish up get the ground all treated and ready for paving for the apron paving. So several feet of concrete. This will be where aircraft are parking, aircraft are taxiing. And one of the questions we're asked quite frequently is, why is the concourse connector as far as it is? And that's a very intentional distance. We designed that so that if an aircraft is parked on a gate in concourse A and an aircraft is parked on the gate on concourse B, that an aircraft that may have just pushed back and an aircraft that's just coming into the gate can pass each other between those aircraft that are parked without any sort of taxi jams or traffic problems. So today, where terminals B and C come together, if you could visualize some of the Delta gates versus some of the United gates, there's actually has to be coordination between those two airlines about who's pushing back or who's coming in when, because the throat of those two terminals where the two horseshoes come together does cause a traffic problem. So we'll eliminate that with this new facility. Two things that are underway that I want to kind of wrap up with is the art for the new terminal. Of course, the city of Kansas City, Missouri has a 1% for art program, and we'll talk about that here in just a second. But the other piece is the concessions program, and the selection of that is underway. So those two things coming up next. First, with the art, we've got all the information about the art. I've got a couple of visuals here that they pixelated a little bit. So I'd encourage you to visit buildkci.com/art for better visuals. There's a screenshot of what that page looks like on the right-hand side here. But just a few points here on how that process has been. Certainly the city's Municipal Arts Commission has been very much engaged in the selection of the art, as well as the city's art administrator. It's been a really good relationship between the Aviation Department, the Municipal Arts Commission, the arts administrator, and the developer as we've worked to include art in the project. We've had 2 calls so far for 8 different locations, and those have been completed and those artists have been selected. The final call has closed. This was a call to local artists for the last 19 locations, which are kind of in the gate area wall hanging pieces. And we had 188 responses to that. The art selection committee, which has representation from around the country, artists around the country and artists around the world, are making those decisions here in the next few weeks as to which artists will be selected, local artists will be selected for those final 19 locations. And again, as I mentioned, buildkci.com/art for more information on that. This is a map just to show you where art is going, and the answer is art is going everywhere. And we're really proud of the way that this has come together. The first piece I'll showcase is by Nick Cave, and this is in the ticketing hall above the ticket counters and in the large spaces above the ticketing lobby. suspended art pieces called the Air Up There. So once you come in, the scale of the building is spectacular. I really do think that this piece will absolutely draw a traveler's eyes up to the ceiling to really appreciate the expanse of the space and give it some scalability. This one is probably my favorite piece, captured called Molten Swing by the artist Sue Sunny Park. It is going to be suspended in the vertical circulation where the escalators move will bring passengers from the departures level down to the arrivals level where baggage claim is. I know that I'm certainly looking forward to being behind someone or in front of someone that's making comments about how incredible this art piece is, because I actually got to be on the selection committee for this one. So it's one of my personal favorites. This will be in the A node, immediately past the security checkpoint. It's a piece called The Fountain of Renaissance, and it's resonance, and it is, the artist is Nacia Iglesias, and it'll be a kinetic moving piece that reflects the colors of the area around it. So that'll be a showstopper for sure. In the B node, Ornithology by artist Willie Cole, which takes saxophones, shapes them into flying birds, and will suspend those from the ceiling in the B node, the B concourse node. Cloud Gazing was the name of this installation by artist Michael Svivos, and it will be in the concourse connector, bringing passengers together. There's going to be some neat optical illusions that will happen the way that this piece of art is designed, and will look almost kinetic, even though it's a static piece. In the ticketing hall, we actually broke up two different locations. On the southern side of the ticketing hall, we chose George Rodriguez, a piece called Let the Music Take You, and it's actually a large-scale ceramic installation featuring a traveling jazz band. So jazz musicians with their instruments packed up as if they're getting ready to get on the airplane with you. And they will be featured on the south side of the ticketing hall. On the north side of the ticketing hall, John Ballesteri with a piece called Wings that has lots of neat ties to Kansas, Missouri, and the region, and some of the things that he's including in these large-scale ceramic art pieces. And then on the lower level, on the arrivals level, underneath the departures level roadway will be a piece called Sky Prairie, two different installations, one on the southern side, one on the northern side, that will draw passengers' eyes towards where the road crossings are. So there'll be it'll also help with some navigation and wayfinding. And the last piece that's been chosen so far, two pieces actually, one in each stair tower, and the images, the color pattern is reversed in the two different stair towers. And the title of this is Riff and Lift. So certainly a tie to music, but you can also see, for those of you that may be in aviation, a little bit of a pattern of a airfoil or a wing shape in the design of the primary shape for what's going in those vertical circulation pieces in the parking garage. So that's art. Again, more information at buildkci.com/art. On concessions, we have closed the RFP. We are in the selection process now. So I will need to be very careful about what I say about this program and where we are. I can share with you this, which is the goals that we communicated to everyone about the project and what we wanted the concessions program to be. Certainly high priorities of customer service, high priority for a feel of Kansas City, and certainly we're hopeful that the concessions program, as it's put together, is one that does feature Kansas City prominently. I know that though the existing facility and the existing concessions program doesn't necessarily do that, and we know that that is something that can be improved on, and we believe that the new program in the new terminal will absolutely reflect some of Kansas City's favorite things and help visitors really understand that they are in Kansas City before they in fact get to the downtown area or other locations that we'll be delivering on that field. So there's meetings happening now regarding selection. The selection should be in front of City Council, I believe, in the third quarter of this year. All the information about the concessions program is at flykci.com/concessions. And that's really it in terms of the project. And we're posting as much as we can, putting out good content. Jeff, I just posted myself the video, a few pictures on the Build KCI social channels of the parking garage. We had some Kate Sweeten with the project, had some really great photos that she captured of some of those precast panels being installed. So you can see those on Insta, Facebook, and Twitter. We also have a YouTube channel for the project. So buildkci.com for all your information there. And if I have just a couple of minutes, I think it might be beneficial as we are returning to travel to give a little bit of an update on where we are in terms of seat capacity and passenger volume. This is a tracker that shows back to pre-pandemic levels in March of 2020, when we were seeing more than 16,000 passengers a day screened at the security checkpoints. That bottomed out with only 400 passengers in the middle of April of 2020. And the good news is our daily average is back over 14,000 passengers a day going through security checkpoints at Kansas City International Airport, but that is still down. In July of 2019, we were seeing about 18,000 passengers a day. We are encouraged as airlines have returned seat capacity into the market, and I'll speak to some of those specific markets that have turned back on the next slide. But we're seeing load factor, or the percent of seats filled, almost up to 90%. So airlines have returned capacity, and Kansas City is filling the capacity, which is helping me as I work with airlines to grow additional service, tell a really compelling story about the need for more service to come back into the market. Looking at some of the markets that have been turned back on recently, Alaska brought Portland back in May. Delta started Boston in June. Spirit had a lot of growth into Florida, and that's where we're seeing a lot of our interest from our airline partners is into the leisure markets. So Spirit turned on Fort Lauderdale, Tampa, Fort Myers, and Destin. They also brought back a pre-existing route, which they had flown before, to Myrtle Beach as well as Detroit. And then Southwest in June as well turned on Panama City, Pensacola, Sarasota, and some other leisure destinations like Charleston, South Carolina, Orange County, California, near Los Angeles, and San Diego. Delta just earlier this month brought back nonstop service to Seattle. So we're encouraged by that, but certainly working to get reinstated some of the other routes that we don't have yet or have not yet come back. United to San Francisco, for example, Southwest to Indianapolis or Milwaukee. Those are some of the routes we're continuing to work on with our airline partners to try to bring back to restoration. We have seen seat capacity up over 16,000 on average for the first time since the pandemic. So again, strong growth there. And we're at 45 nonstop destinations served today. That peak was 52 in 2019. So we're not too far away, but we're climbing back. And then just looking at seat capacity here, light blue is 2019, gray was 2020, and you can kind of see how that dropped off in the April, May, June. But then looking at 2021, the dark blue has been a really positive growth story as we've seen month over month growth for almost the entire year. Now, I did hatch out the end of the year just because I do believe that airlines, the schedules that are published right now will most likely be revised, likely in a downward fashion before they fly in the fourth quarter of this year. And just one last announcement, we'll finish with some good news, and that is that we have a new airline partner. We had an announcement earlier this year from JetBlue that they've announced their intent to begin service to Kansas City International Airport, nonstop service to New York JFK Airport, which is currently unserved, as well as Kansas City Boston. The service is not yet for sale. I'm expecting that to be published and for sale here in the next couple weeks. We're look forward to welcoming JetBlue to Kansas City International Airport, the existing terminals, and then having them move over with us into the new facility. And one last thing I'll close with is, if you have not yet been to the airport since the pandemic started, please be prepared for a little bit of a different road pattern. What used to be kind of a counterclockwise orbit around the air traffic control tower, where you would first approach Terminal B and then Terminal C, has now been reversed. The roadway inbound Cookingham, after you go under Paris, makes a significant bend to the left. brings you now first to a roundabout in front of Terminal C and then to a roundabout in front of B. So a little bit different traffic pattern. And if you want to drive it virtually, you can do that at the Build KCI YouTube channel. We've got a video there that will help you see how the roadway works if you have not been there yet. And that's really all I have in terms of prepared comments. I'll keep sharing screen for a little bit. I think I've heard a couple questions come in. Maybe if we have some things that I can refer back to the presentation, otherwise I'll cancel the presentation and we'll go back to the Brady Bunch style layout.
Justin, thank you so much. That was just awesome. And you know, as an engineer, you know, looking forward to this presentation today, I'm thinking, oh man, I'm going to see a bunch of cool concrete and some columns and some beams and all that good engineering construction stuff. And I am absolutely blown away by the public art renditions. And those are fantastic. And what it kind of reinforces for me is that this is much more than an airport terminal. I mean, this is going to be our front door, but it's going to be a statement about Kansas City. And I love the tie-in to our historic culture. You had a favorite sculpture there. I think my favorite was the saxophone airlines. That was cool. Love that. There have been several questions come in through the chat, and I want to give a shout out to Pat Klein on the call, Director of Aviation. He has been doing my job. He's been answering some of those. So that is great. I'm going to try and capture some that didn't capture. Plans for the other two terminals, A and B, I believe.
So the other two terminals opened in November of 1972, which means they're 49 years old, and they are at the end of their useful life, constructed with exposed aggregate concrete. And of course, concrete was kind of a forever solution in the late 60s, early 70s, but it turns out exposed aggregate concrete is really just a sponge. And when you reinforce it with steel rebar that rusts, it doesn't last forever. And we are approaching the end of life for those terminals. So both B and C will come down, and those costs of the demolition for that is part of the project. There's not going to be an additional ask for additional dollars for that to be done. We'll use the space that's created when those are gone to enhance our winter weather de-icing operation. So right now, aircraft are de-iced close to the gate and not in a central location. Centralizing the aircraft de-icing program, centralizing that location will allow us for much better ability to capture and lessen the environmental impact of aircraft de-icing. So that's what's going to happen to the terminals. The good news is the garages, terminals B and C garages are not 1972 vintage. They do still have life left in those. We're going to convert the Terminal B garage into employee parking. So right now, the Aviation Department spends over $1 million a year in a bus contract operating an employee shuttle bus, which operates from near the intersection of Interstate 29 and Mexico City Avenue all the way into the terminals. With the B parking garage becoming employee parking, employees will get hours back in their day as they're able to just drive to work and park right outside work, because it's a very easy walk from the B garage over. So that might not be ready to go on day one, but that's certainly our intent, is to repurpose that. And if anybody needs a lot of parking space for the C garage, I think that we'd love to talk to you about it. We also know that that Ford frequently is looking for places to park F-150s when their manufacturing is back to humming, and maybe there's an opportunity for us there.
Oh, very good. You talked a little bit about some of the new airline service announcements and JetBlue coming to Kansas City. One of the questions was, will we see a return to direct flights to Europe as a result of the new terminal? So
as we experienced with the welcoming of Iceland Air in 2018, the existing terminals did not prohibit us from being able to secure a European carrier. So the answer is, will the new terminal get us a new international or European carrier? It's kind of unrelated. Those decisions are really made by the demand of the market. And Pat and I have not stopped working to, even through the pandemic, working to maintain and grow relationships with our international airline partners. And we'll be face to face with several international carriers later this year, talking about the Kansas City transatlantic opportunity. The result of the Iceland Air service, which was discontinued after 2019, gave us a really good case study because the market did stimulate significantly when that route came in. Even though it was only 3 or 4 times a week, we saw Kansas City MCI to transatlantic market growth by more than 100 passengers a day. So the service came in, the market grew. That's the story we want to tell to other carriers that are interested in the transatlantic opportunity to Kansas City.
Well, fantastic. You also alluded there to COVID, and of course that the impact that had on the airline industry. One question came in: were there any changes in the design or plans for the new terminal as a result of COVID, or perhaps other new technologies may have?
It's a great question. Because of the location of the terminal build, COVID didn't necessarily slow down or speed up. There were some other capital projects around the country that got faster because COVID slowed things down in terms of passengers and things like that. So our project didn't get accelerated or decelerated, just stayed kind of chugging right along. In terms of the COVID impact and post-pandemic changes for the facility, I would say there haven't been a lot of things we've had to go back and readdress. And I'm proud to say that a lot of that is due to the fact that we didn't make decisions regarding technology in 2017 when the vote passed. In fact, we're still making those decisions now as to what the technology is that we'll use to get passengers from the curb to the gate. So how touchless can that be? It can be very touchless. And there were, when the vote passed in 2017, there was probably a much higher public resistance towards biometrics, I think. But where we are now, how do you unlock your phone, Stan, right? You look at it, right? It sees your face. And so I think that we as a society are becoming much more comfortable with the changes in technology. And I think that we will very likely have a high probability that on opening day, you as a passenger have the ability to go from your arriving vehicle, whether or not it's an Uber, Lyft, or a bus or your car, onto the seat in the aircraft without using your fingers to touch anything, which I think is a real benefit.
Very good. You talked about the parking garage, and of course, with any airport, for travelers, cost of parking, be it short-term or long-term, extended, is an issue. Kate asked if there's any projections for what the parking cost might be per day for
parking garage right now is 24. If Pat's really here answering questions, I might get myself in trouble. I think we're forecasting to go to 25. And in fact, we talked about doing some dynamic pricing with the parking garage, which we don't do today, not to raise prices when demand is high, but to lower prices when demand is low. So, when the company's paying for it, we typically see, Monday, that like I mentioned, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, the parking garage is typically much more full. But people that are getting out of town on a weekend break are not typically paying garage parking prices out of their pocket. So maybe there's an opportunity for us to incentivize people into the garage with a lower price to help make that decision. I saw a question about restrooms, and so I want to jump on that when a question was asked, is that male and female standard or not? And I've been an advocate for the bathroom quality of our bathroom facilities throughout this project, and really appreciate the support of Pat, the city of Kansas City, Missouri, and my other colleagues in our decision to include 2 multi-user, all-gender restroom facilities in a post-secure area. So where the concourse A meets the concourse connector, and where concourse B meets the concourse connector, will be featuring multi-user, all-gender restrooms that will certainly not only benefit our travelers who may not identify as male or female, but passengers that are traveling with maybe a younger child who is of the opposite gender, and you get kind of in that 7, 8, 9-year-old kid, and you're like, well, you could probably go in by yourself, and you're too old to come in with me, and it just gets awkward. So there's so many people that will benefit from a multi-user all-gender restroom. I'm really proud to be on the forefront with that. We think that's the right decision.
That's fantastic. I see Dan Boylan also on the call is helping out, and he's given a detailed answer to a question that came up about fountain feature. So please look at that. Kim, tied to what you just talked about, Justin. Kim just asked if there will be spaces for folks with sensory sensitivities.
Yeah, we're gonna deliver on so many amenities that we haven't been able to have in the existing facility, just because the way that they're laid out. You know, there's like 100 different entrance and exit points, and there's not one location where we can put amenity in Terminal B or Terminal C and have it available to everybody. The great thing about this new layout is once you're through the security checkpoint, every amenity is available to you as a passenger, regardless of what airline you're flying or what gate you're departing from. So we will be delivering things like through a partnership with Variety KC, an all-inclusive play area in the B node. In the A nodes, we'll have an aircraft simulator room where families who may have a traveler that they're concerned might not be able to process the boarding process, or getting down the jet bridge, or stepping onto an aircraft, or buckling into a seat, will allow that family to simulate that experience through a room in the A node. We'll also have a sensory room, as was asked, allow passengers that may be more sensitive to the typical hustle and bustle of the airport experience to have a quieter place to wait before their flight departs, and on and on and on. You know, I mentioned the USO. Service animal relief areas. We'll have one on each concourse. We'll have rooms for nursing infants in almost every one of our restroom cores, I believe. Our family restrooms will have adult changing tables. I mean, things that we haven't been able to deliver for 50 years. The design of this facility will allow us to deliver on the kind of amenities that is going to make Kansas City an airport that passengers talk about and choose. Even a connecting traveler that may say, I can go through St. Louis, Chicago, or Kansas City, I'm going to choose Kansas City because the food's great and the amenities are great, and I feel cared for as a passenger when I'm traveling through there. And that's really our intent.
That's fantastic. And maybe on that note, I think I've covered all the questions, save for one that Brandon asked very early on. Will there be opportunities for the public to visit the terminal before it opens?
We're actually, yeah, great question. We're working on some of that right now, kind of putting together our plans for what grand opening looks like. Of course, there'll be a time where we are running simulations and things, and we think that there might be, now don't quote me on this, but there may be an opportunity for public engagement on that. So a day that we need about 300 people to come check in as passengers and pretend as if they are, you know, departing to 3 different destinations and go through the process. So be on the lookout for how that will work. And one last question from Kate on flight price changes. This was certainly a real confusing part of the story about building a new terminal, is that there is not a direct relationship between the cost of airfare and the cost that an airline pays at a terminal. New terminals are expensive. Our costs for our airline partners will go up, but will take us to kind of the mid-level of our peer group. But the interesting thing, Kate, I want you to know is that when Wichita, Kansas opened a new terminal, probably 5 years ago, average fares went down, not up. And so there's just not a direct tie to that. And I don't think it's fair to assume that will happen when we open our new terminal. In fact, if we're able to use the terminal to grow competition typically sends out airfare in the opposite direction. And that would certainly be a benefit for Kansas Cityans.
Justin, thank you so much. That is a great way to wrap up here. We are at the top of the hour. Fantastic presentation. So much to be excited about. Again, thank you, Pat. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Justin. The whole PCL team. Thank you to Jeff and Miss Gigi from J.E. Dunn. We so much appreciate your sponsorship this summer and for the great work that you're doing, not just in the construction world and specifically at KCI, but what you're just doing for the community as well. Thank you to Restart for the wonderful work that you're doing. Please, everyone, go check out the website, make a donation, go to the party on the 16th of September. What a cool thing to celebrate. Again, thank everyone for joining us today. I know everyone probably has other things to run to. Please enjoy the rest of this fine day, and we will see you next month for another wonderful Downtowners program on August the 11th. So everyone have a great day. Thanks so much.